Welcome, everybody. This is Tricia Tamkin.
And I'm Jason Thibeault.
And today is September 6th of 2018, and a very interesting thing happened. The New York Times published an op-ed by an anonymous source in the Trump campaign, or Trump presidency, pardon me.
That anonymous source is, of course, anonymous. We don't know who it is, but there's been certainly some speculation about who it might be and speculation about whether this causes a constitutional crisis, whether or not we need to invoke the 25th Amendment, and whether or not this is even treason on behalf of that top official in the Trump White House.
Now, for those of you that are unaware, Jason and I do a lot of work in internet research, and sometimes we will go off the beaten path and use some of our research techniques to see if we can solve problems like this. Now, I do want to throw the caveat out. We are not making a political statement about Trump's presidency or anything political of that regard. What we're doing is looking at what was said in the article and determining if we can use our research skills in order to identify who the actual author is.
All right, so let's go into that a little bit here. Now, this is the beginning of the article. It's posted in the September 5th edition of the New York Times. If you don't have a subscription, we highly recommend you get one. It's a wonderful rag.
It sure is.
All right, and this goes into it, and what I've done is actually highlighted here a couple of different terms that I think are unusual. Terms that certainly people use, but aren't necessarily the first term that would come to your mind. For example, right here we have the idea of first principles. Now, when I think of first principles that guide your decision making, I don't actually ever use the term first principles. I might say a guiding light, a defining principle, a guiding principle.
How about just principles?
Sure, but it's the exact term first principles that sounds a little bit different. Makes me think, well, that might be something I want to go through. That said, that by itself doesn't really mean a lot. If I come over here, unsung heroes, I probably would use unsung heroes, but again, it's one that, that's a unique turn of phrase, and I would want to find somebody who uses both the phrase unsung heroes and first principles. And then here's one that's actually been getting a lot of attention, is this word lodestar. And this is, in certain ways, another way of saying first principles. But lodestar is one that's known to be common with Mike Pence, but more importantly, it's one that when Mike Pence was first chosen to be the VP there, was actually carried in a lot of articles, which is what made me initially think of Mike Pence when I saw this word reading the opinion here.
I'm sorry, what does lodestar mean?
Basically a first principle. Really, a lodestar is Polaris. It is the star which you navigate by, right? But it has come to mean, some sort of guiding morality.
Okay.
Right. And so we no longer have Senator McCain as that, guiding star that, North Star to set sail by. But what we have here, somebody that's using a few different terms that I would want to find. Now, the problem is, if I go out and I search for these terms, right now, what's going to happen is I'm going to get this article. I'm going to get this article over and over again. So I have to find these exact terms with the person that I think is saying them in a time frame that is not right now, or even within the past week or so. So I'm going to show you how I'm going to go about doing that, and I think the best thing for us to do is go out live.
All right, Jason, so what's our first step?
Well, I think our first step would be to take my suspicion with Pence, and I'm going to say Pence, Trump, lodestar. And I don't probably need much more than that. One word has people convinced. But that's not enough for me, because this is that idea of everything that I see right now is exactly this. It's going to be this article. So I'm going to come over to my tools. I'm going to change my time to a custom range. And for a generic custom range, I'm just doing January 1st of 2012. And I'm going to make my end range, let's make it June 1st.
So that'll eliminate all of the articles and commentary about this right now.
Yes. And so here we have this word lodestar coming up with Trump and Pence frequently. And again, this is the word that just a moment ago we were saying, wow, that seems, Tricia didn't have the word. And it is a little bit flexible to be the pliable Pence here in the first article. And now I even quote it to make sure I've got the same thing. And we see this showing up July of 16, it appeared a few times. In October of 17, it showed up a few times. That could mean that this lodestar is a term being used by a certain writer. And I think that's important as we come through here, that this could be the Sam Seaborn or the Toby Ziegler, if you remember The West Wing, who is writing for maybe Donald Trump or for Mike Pence.
Well, I can definitely see in the third result remarks by VP Mike Pence, and these are his actual remarks. This is him talking.
It is a term he uses. And so now I'm going to change this. I'm keeping my date range here because I think that's important. And so I'm going to keep my, date range. But I'm going to go do Mike Pence. And now I want this idea of first principles. Make sure I use the right principles there and I spelled it right before I quote it and go out there. Here he is using this terminology of first principles numerous times.
2013, 2016, 2018.
Right. And so this is a statement from Mike Pence. These are, things that Mike Pence has said. I might even go so far, because a lot of times their remarks are captured in transcripts. So I'm just going to use the word transcript in case that, it comes up here. So as I come through, I start seeing Mike Pence talking about New Deal first principles, Rachel Maddow show, first principles, and Mike Pence. When I see this, it makes me start thinking, okay, I'm on the right track. How about if I replace this with unsung heroes? So again, we start getting, references of these things together. So,
I think we should quote Mike Pence.
We can quote Mike Pence.
Anytime you're looking for an exact phrase, you're going to want to put quotes around multiple words. Here we go.
All right. So, and just to open these up, Mike Pence says is a great way to put this. The challenge is, even quoting Mike Pence, I might want to do Vice President or VP Pence, also in quotes, do some or statements there. I'm going to accept my cookies. And America has always had a kinship with Ireland. I think there are Irish in this country who would disagree with that, but I am going to now go in through here and look for where he talks about unsung heroes. We thank those unsung heroes, it started to say as it jumped on the page for me, in Ireland and Northern Ireland, blah, 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 blah. So these are his exact quotes from this address that he made.
All right, so this begs the question, Jason. I mean, we've gone out, we've looked, we can see some of the same word choice. Are you actually saying that you think Mike Pence wrote this?
Well, I don't want to say that. And there's a few reasons. And I don't know Mike Pence personally in any way whatsoever. I do know this. I've met politicians before, and I have met some of their political staff before. And a story that comes to mind very briefly, I'll tell you, is when I was a teenager, I got to meet my local representative at the time, Republican Tom Ewing, and his chief of staff, Mike Stokey. My meeting with Tom Ewing made me think that he was a nice guy, a friendly guy, but he was the face that got to go and kiss the babies and shake hands and all that he was not the mental powerhouse. And if you know Tom Ewing, if you're Tom Ewing, please don't take any offense. That was my teenage impression. And then I sat down and had an over-hour-long conversation with Mike Stokey. Coming from opposite sides of the political spectrum, I spoke with him for a long time, and he was Tom's chief of staff at the time. And the impression that I got was this was a very intelligent person, somebody who probably could write very well. And of course, I'm not saying Mike Stokey wrote this either, because I don't know where he is involved in politics these days. That was more than 20 years ago. But what I'm saying is this does not appear to be written by a politician, but perhaps by somebody's advisor, somebody's chief of staff, somebody's lawyer, somebody's senior counsel, right? Somebody's head speechwriter. There's too much of a tendency here to not even reuse words. Left to their own, people who aren't good writers, when they're putting something together this long, there tends to be some redundancy.
And there isn't in this. Do you think someone's trying to set him up?
I don't know necessarily set him up, or maybe use a principle of priming us to think about Mike Pence when we're thinking about this. This is somebody who clearly has some long-held and well-held Republican values. They are talk in the article about things that are clearly conservative values. I don't think this is written by somebody who means to do any harm. I think this person thinks that they're doing the right thing. But at the same time, I don't think this is written by somebody on the left. I don't think this is written by somebody other than a senior advisor, somebody who may want us to have Mike Pence in that role. But it could even be somebody farther down the list. If you look at, senior officials in the Trump White House, I would always say, who has to gain here? Right, this person talked about speaking with other top officials, right? So this is somebody that other people feel that they can go to and vent a little bit, which also makes me think probably not the VP. If I'm venting about the president, I don't do it to the vice president. That's, like going to dad and saying, Mom won't let me have any cookies and I hate Mom. Go to your room, you don't get any cookies, right? So I don't know that this is necessarily a situation where it's actually Mike Pence. I do think that there's a possibility it is, and I think that it's in my realm to think that whoever did this was meaning for us to think of Mike Pence.
By the word choice. They primed for it. If you have any interest in learning how to do much deeper research than what we just did, take a look at our eSourcing Essentials program. And if you want to learn about priming and other psychological phenomena that can make you communicate better and be more effective, please take a look at our sales science program. All right, thanks for joining us.
Bye-bye.